Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Films and Stuff. I am Ethan. I'm here with my most valuable Pete. Hey, Pete. How are you today?
I am great, Ethan. How are you?
I'm good. And it's been a while since we have had a major cinematic film release, but we just had a big one last night, right?
Well, you say a big one, but I think this kind of snuck in under the radar. I don't know about you, but I didn't see any trailers for this movie. I didn't see any mass marketing about this movie. I thought it was very, very quiet.
We are talking about The Creator, by the way.
Fair enough.
Which just hit cinemas this week, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And I think you're right that I thought it was like a major release, like a big blockbuster. It's sci-fi. But I think actually from your perspective, you've hit it on the head, which is this kind of snuck in there. And I'm not sure how, whether it was because of the now resolved writer's strike or something else. But definitely, I didn't see a whole lot of trailers for it. And when you told me it was coming out this week, I had to take a step back. I was actually a little bit surprised. It caught me off guard as well.
Yeah. So actually, let's take a step back even further. First of all, just to say congrats to the writers.
Welcome back. We missed you.
For those of us who aren't aware, the writer's strike was resolved. The strike, I think, officially or semi-officially ended last night at the time of recording. So late Thursday night, early Friday morning. Okay. On the basis that it still needed to be ratified, but I don't think it's not going to be ratified. I think the writers got everything that they wanted and more.
Oh, really?
I don't want to say that there was a winner and a loser, but if you are going to categorize that, I really think the writers came out far ahead than even they thought was possible.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so they got a great bump on residuals. They got a great bump on salary. They got a great bump on minimum staffing for writer's room and for mini rooms. They got a lot. I'm not saying they're not worthy of it. I'm just saying they got a lot relative to what people thought they were going to get. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that the actors are also on strike and both those unions were in such great solidarity together.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing when the mass public sees like a random writer. Most people don't know writers of films and TV shows.
Right.
But it's another when all of a sudden on the picket line, you also see actors like the cast of your favorite TV show, the cast of several movies, and then you hear about these actors donating millions of dollars to the fund. It elevates the writers in such a way that people all of a sudden are saying like, oh, this is a big deal.
Yeah, Adam Driver, I think I noticed was like very, very vocal in his support.
So a lot. I mean, there were quite a few people who donated a lot of money, and it did make a splash. And then also coupled with the fact that this has been going on for 5 months, and apparently it cost Hollywood, or at least Los Angeles, $5 billion either.
Whoa.
I don't know if that's $5 billion cumulative or $5 billion a month. It was some ridiculous number. But it cost them enough that it wasn't just the writers who were hurting. It's now also the studios.
Yeah.
So in any case, kudos to the writers. I'm glad you guys got yours. I think that this is also going to give now a good framework for the actors to get their strike finished off with as well.
Yeah.
The fact that the studios are willing to quote unquote capitulate. And again, I'm not saying they are. I'm just saying that, the very generic high level view is that they're the ones who gave up more. The fact that they were willing to do that for the writers indicates they'll probably do the same for actors as well.
Okay. Well, that's good news. Hopefully we can get the machine rolling quickly and get some fresh content developed or finish off, the existing content that hasn't quite made it to market yet.
That's going to now depend on the actors. But again, I'm confident that SAG-AFTRA will kind of get their stuff sorted out within I think within October, we'll hear something for SAG-AFTRA as well.
So with that as background or context, is that why you think that the marketing for The Creator was a little bit light or under the radar?
Potentially. I mean, to be honest, when I first heard of this, I was a bit meh about it until I found out that it was Gareth Edwards. And of course, the last time we saw him do
Rogue
anything
One.
of note was Rogue One, yeah? And Rogue
Yeah.
One, I still think, is one of the better Star Wars movies out there.
Are we going to give some spoilers?
Oh, yeah.
for this?
Spoiler alert.
Let's do the high level. What were your expectations going in? What were your first thoughts coming out of the cinema?
Yeah. So going in, I really had no expectations. In fact, my expectations were super low to the point where I was just like, I think this is going to be just another generic sci-fi humans versus robots kind of, artificial intelligence thing. And then coming out, I was very, very pleasantly surprised.
I don't know why I thought for some reason that this was a Star Wars story. When I first saw like the cover art, like several months ago, I guess I kind of thought it was a little bit of a Star Wars story. And maybe that's because Gareth Edwards was involved with it. I actually did not see any trailers for this, not a single one. But I guess I somehow heard, maybe reading like some headlines on websites or maybe from you, that it was just an independent sci-fi movie. Not independent like an indie, but it was just a standalone sci-fi movie.
And
I have
wholly
to say-
original.
Yeah, and wholly original. And I have to say, I thought that the cover art was very, very intriguing, kind of got me excited for it. And then you said only, I've heard good things. I think that's the only thing you told me. I was excited to go see this movie. I don't know what my expectations were, but I have to say, like, I had good level of enthusiasm to see this movie. Throughout the movie, 100% I was engaged, I was involved, I was really, really actively like following it and thinking about it. Leaving the cinema, I'm like, that was great. Like, I would absolutely recommend that to my brother and a lot of other people. I've got some issues with the story and the details, but as an entertainment fictional work, I loved it.
I 100% agree with you. I was blown away. The premise is so simple.
Mhm.
It's original. Some themes that we've seen in the past, but it was irrelevant because I thought the world building was done so well and it was so nuanced that even if they don't make sequels to this, which, assuming the box office does well, and there's no guarantee of that. Having seen that, what is your gut instinct that, you think it's going to do well, not well?
I don't think it's going to do particularly well. And the reason is it's sci-fi, niche. John David Washington is definitely a name, but he is not a Tom Cruise that's going to like drive, I think, huge box office. When you kind of look at it, I don't think that it's going to drive like a bunch of people to see it who wouldn't ordinarily. I think it doesn't have enough brand recognition. There's two things going for it. One, there's really not a lot of strong competition at the box office right now. So to the extent that people are going to go to the cinema, and then I put another caveat, this is a tough time of year to get people to the cinema. Schools are started, it's autumn, it's British football season, American football season. The weather's better for people to do things outside. It's not a huge movie going season. But to the extent that people go to the cinema, there's not a lot of competition. This may get a lot of foot traffic just because of that. And I think the reviews have been generally positive. And as we've seen with kind of Barbie and Oppenheimer, those positive reviews and experiences can really drive a lot of box office traffic.
Yeah. I'm concerned that a movie this good isn't going to do well.
Yeah.
Because of, it's September, it's October, it's life. Everyone else got other things going on that they don't want to necessarily be spending inside a dark room in the cinema for 2 hours for a movie.
Yeah.
I think J.D. Washington is an A-tier actor, but maybe not established yet as a superstar actor. He's very good. I really like him. I thought he was excellent in Tenet. I thought he was even better in Black Klansman. So many good movies. But I don't think that he's broken out into that superstar category just yet, like his father, like Tom Cruise, like all these other guys. So I think there's a little bit more work for him. Having said that, when he does break into that, and I have no doubt that he will, this is going to be one of those movies in his filmography that people are going to look back to and be like, oh man, I wish I had seen this, because it's really good. And he's phenomenal in it.
Let's do the high level plot and you tell me what you think about the plot, and let's go into the story details.
Okay.
The high level plot, it's something that's become, I guess, a little bit more common in recent entertainment, which is the AI has kind of become a competitor to the humans, right? We've seen this in Terminator, we've seen it in some other places. And it's gotten to the point that following some type of catastrophe in Los Angeles, and this is set in the year 2065, the humans, specifically the US government, have essentially waged war on all the sims, the simulants, the robots, the AI, right?
Yeah.
All the AI, it seems, have now fled for a region they call New Asia, which generally seems to be kind of a China, Indonesia, Cambodia, Vietnam type.
Yeah. It's like a
location.
Southeast Asia conglomerate.
Yeah. And they are living in harmony with the humans there. And the robots or the sims just kind of like want to be free. They are, defending themselves, and they are building apparently a super weapon. And that super weapon is intended to basically win the war against the humans. And that doesn't mean wiping out the humans. It just means they want to get rid of the humans' super weapon. And the robots just want to basically live peacefully. John David Washington has apparently some relationship with the military. He was previously undercover, and his goal is to go and lead this team into New Asia, try to find and destroy the super weapon. The super weapon turns out to be a young girl simulant, which Washington takes a liking to, because not coincidentally, it reminds him of what his dead child or unborn child maybe would have been, right?
Yeah.
So J.D. Washington basically switches sides. He was on the human side. Now he's on the sim side. And together, he and the super weapon, who's the young girl that they call Alfie, are trying to, destroy the U.S. government's space station type weapon in the sky. I mean, I think I've kind of hit all the high points there. What do you think of that story plot? If someone would have summarized it a little bit more succinctly, and you'd read it on the back of a cover or something, what do you think of that story plot? Compelling?
I think it's pretty good. I don't think it's super unique in the sense that it's an unlikely team up between the good guys and the bad guys. And I say that with heavily air quoted. And they end up, becoming allies, and they end up working together. Mm-hmm. It's not a unique or a wholly unique premise, right? We've kind of seen that in so many, whether it's a buddy cop movie like Lethal Weapon, or, Two Guns, whatever. We've seen tons of movies like this, but I think it went in slightly unprecedented ways. I think they had a relatively unique take on that very quote unquote generic premise.
I agree with you. I like the plot. It's not, the humans versus robots is not at all unique. I think the difference here is that they've really tried to make the robots very sympathetic. And in a lot of ways, they're trying to kind of make the robots the good guys, it seems, right?
Yeah. It's almost like Avatar, where you see the human guy who's pretending to be an alien, goes in with the Na'vi, and then he kind of, quote unquote, goes native. He ends up falling for the Na'vi, or in this case, he ends up protecting the person that he's meant to be killing.
Right.
And then he ends up working with the AI to kind of bring down this military industrial complex that the quote unquote the West is propagating. It's a story we've seen time and time again, probably most recently in Avatar.
Yeah. So I totally got behind the movie. What do you think of the technology and the sci-fi aspects?
So I think this is one of the most grounded takes that we've seen. Mm-hmm. The movie made me feel like I was watching something like District 9 or, to a lesser extent, Battlefield LA, which was to say that it's not too far into the future with crazy weapons and crazy sci-fi. There is, insofar as it's not like space laser battles,
Right.
as it were. It
Yeah.
seems a lot more grounded.
Yeah.
It seems something that's plausible for something that's only 40 years in our future.
Yeah, it's not so far away. I have to say, like, I like the sci-fi aspects. I thought it really combined kind of the old and the new
Yeah.
in a relatively seamless way. I caught a few issues that I wanted to raise with you that kind of bothered me because I felt that the simulants weren't really well thought out. I got it, the fact that they evolved and they basically had a consciousness. I can get behind the fact that they developed a consciousness. They seem to have a level of sympathy and empathy and caring that you would not have expected, that you don't see in something like Terminator, right? They were really quite emotive. Like, I can get behind that. I'm usually kind of like a stickler for sci-fi stuff. That's something like I just accept at face value. That's okay. That's the story. And I kind of understand. The few things I caught that I was not okay with, Ken Watanabe, right?
Yeah.
Why is he sleeping?
Yeah, so he wasn't sleeping. He was quote unquote recharging.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is when I saw that, I thought, if there's one person who's definitely going to have a problem and going to make a comment about this, it's Ethan. I thought exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
They were in hammocks. They were sleeping. It looked like they were sleeping. And it was super subtle. But then you noticed that he had a charger on and you saw that the charger was going.
I mean, I just thought that was a little bit, okay.
Because, I'll get behind I would go one step further, right? Because it's not just that they were sleeping, but they were very human. Like even the robots that were on guard, right?
Yeah.
One of them was watching like a robot strip show or like a burlesque dance while he was supposed to be guarding. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I guess this is where we are now with robot technology.
So I had a problem with that. And then at one point, Ken Watanabe was drinking tea.
They never explained the food. Right? Because they even asked Alfie, what's your favorite ice cream or candy? Yeah, that's great. But like, do Sims need to eat? Why?
No.
How? No. Like, they don't explain that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Like all of that is, I mean, I could understand, I could get behind the fact that they developed a consciousness and they wanted to be free. I don't know. I just thought like some of those little things, I thought the sleeping, fine, we'll call it recharging. Like, you should be able to recharge standing up. You don't need to be in a hammock. Like, you should still have like some sensor of someone sneaking up on you. I thought that whole thing was just a little bit disingenuous. I thought the drinking tea, you're right, Alfie and the ice cream, like all those things I thought were a little bit strange, but I was okay with the consciousness. As robots, like I understand that they were Sims, but I kind of would have expected that there'd be like different levels of Sims. And first of all, they all get their faces, I guess, from someone who, like, some of them are faceless.
Yeah.
Right. But that means that they don't really age, right?
Yes, that's right. That was the whole point, right? They're always formed as human adults.
Yeah.
And when they see Alfie as a child, even robots who weren't a part of the Revolution War, they were shocked to see that.
Right. But I guess it would have been, like, everyone's face seemed to kind of match their position. Like when he went up to this big temple in the sky where his wife was, the Buddhist monks.
Yeah, the monks. Yeah.
They were old. You would have think that it would be like the people who had dedicated their likeness or their face, you'd get like a hodgepodge of people that don't really match what their position is, right?
Yeah. I mean,
so
I get your point, but I think that's, for me, I took that as a part of world building. And I thought that's the one thing that Gareth Edwards did really well in this. I thought the world building was phenomenal. Yeah. I agree with you that I wish we could have seen, how in the very beginning of the movie, they did that old school TV flashback of what happened with the Ground Zero in LA. I wish they had done like maybe 5 minutes of the start of AI a little bit better, in the sense that we got to understand how the robots developed, so that we could kind of understand why they're eating and drinking, and why they look the way that they look. A little bit more of that. But those are the kinds of things they can kind of do in sequels and prequels if they want to.
Yeah, I agree. Why was John David Washington like a double amputee? I didn't pick that up.
This, they never confirmed if this was true or not, but apparently he lost it at the attack in Los Angeles. Remember, he said he lost his parents and his brother?
Yeah.
I think it was at that same time that he lost his arm and his leg.
So that's when he met Maya, who was kind of like his physical therapist and helped like fit him with prosthetics, right?
In between that, he was for the army. He gets put on the secret mission to infiltrate her group, and he goes in. So maybe that was a cover story as well. We don't know.
Yeah. It seems like that would almost have to be a cover story. Otherwise, I mean, if you're really sending in someone, you would probably not send in a double amputee.
Maybe. Or maybe it's not a part of the cover story, right? Maybe that's...
It just happened subsequent to it.
Yeah, I honestly don't know.
Yeah. Do you think it was necessary? I felt like it was a little bit of a distraction.
I didn't think it was a distraction. I think it wasn't necessary, but I think it helped with the sense that it added to the quote-unquote sci-fi element of this movie.
When I was watching this, do you remember the movie Skyscraper with The Rock?
Yeah.
Remember The Rock had a prosthetic leg?
That's right.
And at the end of the movie, he kind of like used the leg because like it couldn't be crushed and it was titanium.
Exactly.
And I thought that's where this was going to go as well. And I thought that John David Washington was going to take his arm or his leg or something, and he would either like release it so he couldn't be stuck, or he'd use it to like hold open an airlock or something. Yeah. I was kind of waiting for that exact reason why he had to be the amputee, but it didn't come around.
I actually went one step further. I thought they were going to take his memories and put him into a robot body, exactly like they did in Avatar.
Oh, it's not bad. I mean, you're right. Then basically he would have died, but Alfie would have preserved him, right?
Exactly. Like he did for his mom.
Yeah. What do you think of the relationship between Alfie and Joshua?
Regular listeners probably know that Ethan and I have, maybe not actively, but at least unwillingly, crapped on child actors a lot over the last couple of years. And that's not because we're mean, and that's not because we hate children. No. But in general, I think it takes a lot for a child actor to really, I mean, for me, not be a distraction and to add value in a movie. I loved her. I thought she was fantastic. I think she was also one of the first child actors in a long time where I could totally get behind. And taking a page out of your book, Ethan, I was the one who got emotional at that escape pod scene.
No way. Really?
And I am not one to get emotional. You know that. But that sequence where he saves Alfie by jettisoning her out of the escape pod and she realizes what he's doing, I nearly fell apart in the cinema. And that never happens to me.
Whoa.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you, Pete. You're right. We should not have glossed over the work of Alfie. You're absolutely right. For a 7-year-old actress, she was, you're right, probably some of the best work we've seen by a child actor in a very, very long time. Absolutely was believable in that role, was probably perfectly cast, definitely not a distraction. And I would say the biggest compliment, kind of stayed in her lane, took a leading role when she needed to, took a subversive role when she needed to.
Yeah, it just felt good seeing her. And I just thought the chemistry between her and John David Washington, I thought were phenomenal.
Yeah, fantastic. But I have to say, you talked about that escape pod scene and the reversal of roles. You're right. Usually something like that, I would be a puddle of tears. I held it together and you were it seems like the more emotional one. I felt, and we've seen this a few times before, notably, I think the Star Trek Wrath of Khan, right?
Yeah.
Where we see the Kirk and Spock goodbye and a few others. Like if I were the director, I would have said, I think we can do it a little bit better. I felt like it just either it wasn't long enough for me or it wasn't dramatic enough for me. But I didn't get the same goosebumps that usually I do get when these scenes come about.
I got two of them. I got it at that escape sequence, and I got it at that sequence where they unplug Maya from life support.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When you see the child crying in his arms, that's when I was like, oh man. The moment he said, in the second act, I would give anything to have one last moment with Maya, I knew that he was going to die at the end of this movie. Like it was classic Hollywood foreshadowing that he was going to not make it, at least not as his human self.
Yeah.
And then when you see them take Maya's memory, I was just like, oh, obviously the child is going to do the same thing for him. And the three of them are going to live as a happily integrated family. What did you think of the cast? What did you think of Allison Janney, for example?
I have to say, she's becoming a badass, huh? What was the other Netflix movie we saw?
Lou.
And she just took down everybody. I never would have guessed it when I was watching her on The West Wing, but she has played that role very well. Like I sincerely believed in her creds, yeah.
It's a shame that she seemed like a bit more of a one-note evil guy. I think what would have been really interesting is, how she convinces John David Washington this fight is the right fight because both her children were killed in the war and one of them was duped by the resistance.
Yeah.
How crazy would it have been if that one of the guards at the temple had taken the face of her son? And so now she's forced to kill her son as a sim.
That's a super good twist.
It would have just added a little bit more element of nuance to a character that I thought was a little one note. I thought she was just a generic bad guy.
You're not really supposed to like her or the other guy who I guess is kind of like the admiral in the all green and the glasses. You're not supposed to like them. But if you compare them with the military command in Avatar, they actually don't seem like, from their perspective, they're actually not so bad. I didn't think Allison Janney did anything where you're like, you could make it kind of like this anti-American propaganda piece because of Allison Janney. She was simply a soldier who was committed to doing her job. And I think from her perspective, she had an absolute valid reason, for being so dogged in the pursuit of that mission.
So what was your theater experience like? And the reason I asked that was because in that opening sequence, when they're talking about how the West, right? Because the two factions in this movie is called the West and New Asia. They don't go to say North America. They don't go to say the United States, even though it's very clearly the United States versus Southeast Asia, right? Like it's a mix of Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Indonesia, India, that kind of thing.
How'd they get that tank in there?
Two of them, and also unnoticed, by the way.
Yeah.
But so the point was that the audience where I was sitting, when they started talking about how the West waged a war against New Asia, I heard, and I swear I'm not making this up, it was a shocker for me. One woman in the audience was just like, such a typical American thing to do, pretending like they know what's the best for all of us.
Oh, she said that out loud?
She said that, and she said that in Hindi, and I was just like, oh man, that's a really interesting thing to hear about a movie that's ostensibly just a sci-fi movie, right? I don't think Gareth Edwards was trying to make a political statement. I just thought that was really interesting that there are people out in the audience who are just like, yeah, well, of course, quote unquote, the West is just the United States. And of course they're doing this.
I mean, I compared to Avatar, which I thought was a very anti-American military take. Right. I thought Avatar was clearly the military was American military. I thought that here it was attempting to be a little bit more neutral. And you're right, they kind of called it the West. But that was undone, I felt, by a few things. One, that tank, which harkened back to Avatar directly.
Oh yeah.
Right. They're talking about this nomad weapon, which I thought was actually pretty cool, by the
Oh
way, in
yeah.
a lot of ways. Like that's Star Wars level design on that weapon. I thought that was great. Super cool. I believed in that. Where did they get that big tank from? And that tank, first of all, had a blue stripe, which doesn't make sense for a lot of reasons, least of all camouflage. But it clearly said US Army on it.
Yeah.
And I thought if you're going to do that, it should be like a UN tank.
Yeah.
Because it was
Or
blue
NATO.
or something like that.
Yeah.
It didn't necessarily need to be US. I thought that the tank was unnecessary because you see it like kind of like destroying all the trees. You see it basically shooting a lot of innocent people. And just by the tank itself, I was just thinking logistically, like, hold on. I understand Nomad, which is in the sky, kind of like a satellite. That makes sense. Where exactly did they airlift this tank from and decide that's okay? Like that just didn't seem to fit at all.
And for context for our listeners, the tanks that we see, they're not like regular tanks, which is like,
No.
the size of a big truck. No, these things are like several stories high, several dozen meters wide. I mean, these things are the size
They
of
were
small
Avatar
buildings.
level.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were really Avatar level devices.
Yeah.
I thought that was unnecessary. And I agree. I really wish this would have been not America versus everyone. I really wish it would have been not even the West. I wish it would have been a little bit more humanity. And you'd have seen like kind of an executive council, like UN-ish, that would have been like a little bit more diverse. And maybe Allison Janney has the lead on that, or that other dude has the lead. But I wish they would have made it a little bit more like it's not just an America issue. It's kind of like a humanity issue.
Yeah. And I think most people would get behind that. I don't know how they did this, but it's a very timely thing today.
Yeah.
It is something that, people are going to have serious opinions on.
Yeah. When you watch this, you're clearly supposed to think that the Sims are the good guys. And you're clearly supposed to think that the American military is the bad guys. Because even then, Ken Watanabe says, that disaster in Los Angeles, that wasn't us. We would never hurt humanity. That was a human coding error. And I guess a lot of these AI movies that I find most compelling are when AI kind of flexes their superiority in all ways, but then humans flex their superiority in terms of, yes, but we can appreciate smells or flavors or love, in a way that, Sims can't. And yes, we have our flaws, right? Usually they've got like this kind of like mea culpa at the end saying, yes, we're a flawed species. And yes, we've got bad tempers. And yes, we're vindictive and all the other kind of like bad human things. But, the fact that we can love and we care, we've got loyalty, like all those things kind of like make up for it. And that's why, we're the greatest species and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah.
But in this, it's kind of been co-opted by the Sims who are like, oh, but we're so sympathetic and we're so empathetic. And look, we care about kids. We would never run and put them in harm's way. We're actually morally superior in those ways.
Yeah, we have culture, we have funeral rights, we have burial rights, we believe in religion.
All of that I thought was a little bit, it was getting a little bit away from the Sims, right? Like I'm comfortable with them saying, hey, we don't want to take orders. We just want to do our own thing and we want to live and we think we can create a more orderly society, independent of you. That would have made sense. I want there to be a sequel, though. I want there to be a sequel. I want there to be a prequel. I'm absolutely on board for this.
I really, really liked this movie. I thought the cast was very, very well done. I thought, Gemma Chan, even though she's a main actor in this, we see not much of her. Two things. One, I love that this is a really good original sci-fi movie. We haven't seen a lot of original movies this year. Most movies are either derivative of, a biopic or a book or an existing IP or a comic book or a superhero movie or something. So there have been very few truly original works. In fact, again, I think in our top 10 summer list, Elemental was really the only one. Everything
Yeah,
else was kind of based on an existing IP or an
that's right.
existing brand or product or person. The second thing was that, in fact, let me ask you, how much do you think this movie cost to make?
Less than 200 million.
$80 million.
Whoa.
In $80 million, Gareth Edwards has made a movie that I think, in terms of sci-fi, in terms of tech, rivals some of the stuff we've seen even on Star Wars, even on MCU, even on Warner Brothers and the DC Universe. He has done some phenomenal sci-fi work for less than half of what most of the summer blockbusters cost.
I mean, that is inexcusable that Indiana Jones cost 3 times this movie. It's inexcusable. If that's really the case, and I were working at a studio, I would really, really have a critical eye of every single budget that came across my desk. Indiana Jones, as far as I'm aware, it had the de-aging.
Yeah.
I have no idea how much that will cost. I mean, I know that's not $100 million.
Yeah, I just think that you're absolutely right. I think the big studios are going to have to sit down and just say,
Yeah.
how the hell did we spend
Yeah.
$250 million on Guardians of the Galaxy 3, on Fast X, on Blue Beetle, or whatever?
Yeah.
And
because sorry, I'm cutting you off, but
no, please.
top lines cannot rise. I mean, we've kind of hit the saturation point in terms of everyone going to movies or subscribing for streaming. We've hit more or less the ceiling in terms of like ticket prices. We're not going to double ticket prices. We're not going to double, the number of audience attendees. That means you need to work on below the line stuff.
Yeah.
If you need 500 million for a movie to break even, something is wrong with your business model.
Yes.
It's because your movies are too darn expensive.
Yes. We've made this argument countless times. I would rather have 4 the creators and have 3 of them bomb than one Indiana Jones. And if that bombs, my studio's in big trouble for the summer.
Yeah, I agree. I can't go through Indiana Jones in my mind and understand what's expensive there.
Whatever it is. So Gareth Edwards did a lot of what they call guerrilla filmmaking. He wanted to do a lot of green screen stuff and stuff like that, but I think he realized that it's going to be way cheaper and it's going to look way better. Let's shoot in Southeast Asia. Let's go to Thailand. Let's go to Vietnam. Let's go to all these countries. Let's shoot there. The island locations, the beach locations look beautiful. They looked natural. They didn't look like computer generated anything. And he said everything else, like the spaceships that they use, the Nomad that they use, let that we can CGI. Yeah. My God, the city that they built or that they did, it looked as good, if not better, than what we saw in Blade Runner. I thought that was a phenomenal new age technology city. I thought that looked wonderful. And this whole movie only cost $80 million. It's so good. It's so good for that kind of money.
I love Nomad. Can I ask you something? What is this like green field on Nomad?
So this probably serves 2 functions. 1, oxygen generation. And 2, it's probably just science, right? We saw a bunch of labs. I bet they were just doing research up there. Plus, I mean, thematically, it gives us a real world interpretation of what heaven is like, right? Because he's running through the quote unquote Elysian fields before he dies.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. It's a bit weird that on a military installation that they would have this, but it's fine.
I mean, because like we first saw like someone who's kind of like spraying it or like cultivating something. And I'm like, is this like the food source for the people who live on the Nomad? Like they could probably just import food. It's
a small bit of world building could have done wonders. Like, when they're talking about in that vignette in that very beginning where they're like, and so now we've got the Nomad. And despite the thousands of people protesting, the research that we do on that facility in addition to the military support that it provides, is so helpful for humanity. We've curbed world hunger because of it, blah, blah, blah. They could have done a little bit more just to kind of, let's say, tie up loose ends.
I just want to draw a parallel. One of the things that in the writer's strike was at issue was AI generated content. And here we are essentially saying that the protagonist is AI and the humans are the bad guys. Is this just a coincidence that now a studio is saying, look how great AI is? A hidden message? Should we draw anything from this?
You know, it's really funny you say that, because I read in one of the reviews exactly that same content. It seems coincidental that during the writer's strike, a studio is putting out a piece of work that's basically applauding AI versus humanity.
Look how amazing. It's so much better than humans. I don't know if Terminator was the first. I mean, maybe it was Space Odyssey, right, with HAL 2000. You know, Terminator put it into, I guess, kind of more visual or visceral terms. This is not the last we've seen of this. We just saw it in Mission Impossible. We're getting more and more of this as it becomes kind of like culturally relevant. I think we're going to see more and more of these types of movies that either precondition humans for the acceptance of AI or take more nuanced stances in terms of the benefits or merits of it.
Yeah. And plus, you know, I mean, the advantage of AI is that they're inherently apolitical. It's not like, oh, well, the bad guy is a Russian, or the bad guy is a Chinese guy, or the bad guy is an Indian guy, or the bad guy is an American guy. There's no flags associated with it. AI is this nebulous concept. It becomes humanity versus AI is the new age equivalent of like aliens invading.
Yeah, it's very, you can't really be offended by that.
I mean, I'm not saying they would or they wouldn't, but I would think that, you know, the censors of restrictive countries like India, like China, would have a hard time saying no when the bad guy isn't India or China. It's a machine. It's a robot, right? So many times we've seen Hollywood movies get banned from China because some way, somehow China ends up looking like a bad guy. And so to protect their citizens, they say, well, you're banned in this country, or because you made one comment that insulted this country. In this case, we're talking about a nebulous concept, or maybe not so nebulous, but at least an apolitical entity that's not associated with any one nation.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, should we give final reviews?
Yeah, absolutely. Where do you stand on this?
I think this is a must-see in cinemas. Actually, we haven't mentioned this. It's not too long. It's 2 hours, 15 minutes. Not too short. I think in a lot of ways, this is a great film to see in cinemas. The length is right. The content is right. It's an original story. You don't really know how it's going to end. It's something that's kind of relevant now. I think all these things kind of stack on top of each other. This is really a great movie to go see in cinemas.
I 100% agree. I was super excited all the way home from the cinema. I was thinking in my mind about all the different things that I really liked about this movie. Okay, I mean, I've harped on about it, but okay, forget the fact that it's an original movie. I just thought that the sci-fi element was just the right blend of real world and sci-fi, high concept sci-fi. I loved the story. I thought the acting was great. Again, I cannot say enough good things about that child actor. I think she was so good. I really think that this movie is well worth watching. I also think that because it came in at so much less than $100 million, the pressure on this movie to make money at the box office drops dramatically.
Yeah, you're right.
Having said that, it's unbelievable that I would say that an $80 million movie is a low-risk movie. Like, that's crazy to say that. But at the same time, I want to see more. I have a sneaking suspicion that this movie isn't going to do incredibly well at the box office. And I think that's going to make studios think 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 times before they're like, okay, let's make a sequel. Believe me, there's places you can make a sequel or even a prequel. We can talk more about the AI uprising, right? The quote unquote uprising. That can be a great prequel. And we can even talk about the next step in Alfie's story, right? Because the story ends with her coming back to Earth as the savior, but the war isn't technically over. It's just the biggest chess piece is off the board for humanity.
Mm-hmm.
How does humanity react to that? Or when I say humanity, I really mean the West. How do they react to that? Where does this go next? I have no idea.
Yeah. If this plays out like kind of a lot of other traditional worlds, that even within the sim community, there's going to be a faction, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's going to be just kind of like what we saw with like Secret Invasion. We're going to see the faction that's like, we're Sims, we're taking over the world. We can do this better and more efficiently. As long as the humans are involved, we're always going to have chaos. We'll take over. We know what's right.
Yeah.
You're going to have a faction of the Sims that are like, look, humans are fundamentally good. We can live together, kumbaya, and so forth. And then you're going to have the humans, which are like, yeah, we're really not going to compromise with anyone. Like, we're taking you all out,
Yeah.
you know?
There's so many ways they could go with this.
Yeah.
Or we learned that there's a Nomad 2 in production, or, you know.
Oh, yeah. There's got to be a Nomad 2.
Basically, this movie's version of a Death Star. So there's so many different ways they could go with this. Or there's a new counter super weapon. I mean, there's so much they can do.
I agree. All right, Keith, if people want to agree, disagree, argue, discuss, and put forward their own theories, where shall they do so?
In fact, you should definitely reach out. Tell us what you think. Go watch this movie. Really, I want to hear it. It's such a good movie. We were so pleasantly surprised.
True.
Tweet at us at F&S Podcast. DM us on Instagram at Films and Stuff Podcast. Email us aloha@filmsandstuffpodcast.com. And then, of course, like this video, leave a comment below, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so that you know when the next episode of the Films and Stuff Podcast drops.
Keith, I want to thank you for turning me on to this film and reminding me that it was coming out in cinemas this week. Listeners, thanks for joining and listening to us discuss The Creator. We hope that there's more, and you can hear us talk more about this and other things on the next episode of the Films and Stuff Podcast.
Thanks, Ethan.
Thanks, guys. Bye now.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.